the middle of the night, 12 U.S. fighter jets strike at once.
In the early hours of July 19th, 2025, 12 F-22 Raptors sliced through the night sky without a sound. In a heartbeat, a hidden Sinaloa compound, once capable of churning out enough fentanyl to take out 10 million people, was turned to rubble.
The Mexican cartel drug lab didn't see that coming.
This wasn't a typical bust. It was a precision strike that marks a new chapter in America's drug war. With over 84,000 fentanyl-linked deaths in a single year, the stakes have never been higher. How far will this bold approach go, and at what price? Let's find out. Architects of a drug empire. For years, three powerful cartel bosses reshaped Mexico's underworld into something way bigger than just drug smuggling. It became a parallel government. Rafael Caro Quintero, the Trevino Morales brothers, and Vicente Carrillo Fuentes didn't just move narcotics. They built blueprints for entire criminal empires, plans so advanced that they created their own hidden cities, controlled trade routes, and managed to move synthetic drugs into the United States no matter how tight the border got. Even today, the fentanyl crisis tearing through American towns can be traced right back to the systems these men designed decades ago. Rafael Caro Quintero led the charge. Back in the early 1980s, he figured out how to turn a few airstrips in Mexico into a high-speed pipeline for Colombian cocaine. With bribes to air traffic controllers, twin-engine planes flew straight from Colombia and landed smoothly on dusty ranch strips across Sinaloa and Sonora. No questions asked. But Caro Quintero didn't just move drugs. He ordered the 1985 kidnapping, torture, and murder of DEA agent Enrique Kiki Camarena. That got him locked up for nearly 30 years. But in 2013, a legal loophole set him free. Instead of going quiet, he went underground. Literally. He vanished into the Sierra Madre Mountains, rigged up satellite dishes powered by generators, and built an underground maze of escape tunnels so dense that even Mexican Marines compared them to massive ant farms. While Caro Quintero specialized in staying hidden, the Trevino Morales brothers went in the opposite direction. Miguel and Oscar Omar had both served in Mexico's airborne special forces, and when they left the military, they brought that training with them. Their cartel, Los Zetas, didn't sneak around. They went to war. They welded metal plates onto pickup trucks to make their own armored vehicles, set up overlapping gunfire positions in city streets, and carried out night vision raids on entire towns. Their enemies weren't just rival gangs. They also took on police, civilians, and anyone who got in their way. In cities like Piedras Negras, locals still remember the day rocket-propelled grenades shook the streets and blew out shop windows like they were made of paper. Vicente Carrillo Fuentes, on the other hand, didn't rely on stealth or shock. He weaponized geography. After taking over the Juarez cartel from his brother, who was known as El Señor de los Cielos, he turned Ciudad Juarez into a fortress. Between 2008 and 2012, more than 10,000 people were killed in brutal battles over the bridges connecting Juarez to El Paso, Texas. That's almost 6 people dying every day for 4 straight years. The morgues couldn't keep up. Behind the scenes, Carrillo Fuentes was greasing the right palms. Customs agents, police officers, even military officials, to make sure tractor trailers loaded with heroin, cocaine, and now fentanyl crossed the border without a hitch. In many cases, those trucks were being escorted by law enforcement themselves. But the real power of these cartels wasn't just what they did on the streets. It was what they built underground. They hired engineers off the books to blast tunnels, carve out bunkers, and build entire underground compounds. Some had triple-shift drug labs, diesel generators, sleeping quarters, and hidden weapon stashes stocked with imported Belgian rifles and Chinese-made drones. In Esquinapa, one federal raid uncovered a trapdoor disguised as a chicken coop. Underneath it, a 3-level complex, complete with air conditioning, a pill-pressing room, and even a pirate radio station used to give out coded instructions. These setups were so advanced that even during blackouts or storms, backup systems kept operations running smoothly. And the escape tunnels? They often popped out miles away in mango groves or dry creek beds, far from where authorities were looking. Now, 2 cartels born from that era, Sinaloa and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, have taken that foundation and pushed it to a global scale. Today, the Drug Enforcement Administration estimates that these 2 cartels together are responsible for producing around 3/5 of all the illicit fentanyl on Earth. That massive output isn't coming from one central factory. It's coming from hundreds of backyard labs, called cook sites, scattered across the Sinaloa Mountains and Jalisco's avocado farms. These sites don't look like much from the outside, but inside, they're filled with high-tech gear, pressurized chemical reactors, pharmaceutical mixers, and enough raw ingredients from China and India to produce fentanyl pure enough to kill with just a few grains. Armed guards with suppressed rifles keep watch, while chemists work behind heat-shielding mylar sheets to hide their operations from thermal drones. Even with law enforcement cracking down hard, the flow hasn't stopped. From mid-January to late June of 2025, federal agents from the DEA and Homeland Security seized about 44 million fake pills containing fentanyl. That's enough to kill over 200 million people. On top of that, they also seized 4,500 pounds of powdered fentanyl. That's roughly the weight of a Ford F-150 truck. These busts are huge, but they haven't stopped the damage. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention still reported around 87,000 overdose deaths in the 12 months ending last September. That's actually down almost 25% from the year before, but still twice as many as what we saw just 6 years ago. And now, there's something new brewing. In encrypted cartel chats and whispers in border town bars, rumors are flying that Los Chapitos, the sons of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, are considering a truce with their longtime enemies in the CJNG. A leaked May 2025 intelligence report, shared by Spanish newspaper El País, warned that if these two groups link up, it could be a game changer. Sinaloa brings the production scale, and CJNG controls the fast-moving distribution crews. That means cheaper doses on the street and new fentanyl routes opening across the Great Plains and deep into New England. For dealers, it means higher profits. For public health officials, it's another nightmare. A fresh wave of overdoses just when things were starting to look a little better. What's scary is that the original cartel bosses expected this kind of shift. Caro Quintero made sure every route had backup routes. The Trevino brothers showed their crews how to swap rifles for grenade launchers when the heat showed up. And Carrillo Fuentes made border crossing so profitable that gangs are still fighting over them more than 10 years later. Their strategies have become textbooks for the next generation of cartel leaders. But here's the twist. Those old-school methods are starting to work against them. All the stuff that once made them untouchable, deep tunnels, fixed labs, radio towers, is starting to give them away. If a drug lab stays in the same place too long, authorities start to notice strange patterns, like weird heat spikes in the forest, or odd diesel fuel purchases, or regular bursts of shortwave radioactivity every night. The cartels know this, which is why they're switching tactics. They're now building smaller labs that can pop up in a weekend and vanish just as fast. Some are even setting up inside refrigerated trailers, but there's a downside. Quality control drops, and that's when pills with deadly hotspots start showing up, where one dose might have way more fentanyl than intended. From Phoenix to Philadelphia, law enforcement teams say they're up against two enemies. First, there's the old-school cartel playbook, tested, polished, and still moving truckloads of drugs across the border. But now, there's a new model. Fast, tech-savvy crews using social media and encrypted messaging to market pills like candy. Some even brag on TikTok, showing how one shipment of precursors arriving at the port of Manzanillo can make more profit than a whole year's worth of cocaine runs. Meanwhile, chemical suppliers in China keep outsmarting the system. When one compound gets banned, they just repackage it under a new name and keep the raw materials flowing. Customs agents can't update their watch lists fast enough to keep up. For now, the cartels remain hidden, the pills keep coming, and the clock is ticking on a fight that neither side can avoid much longer. The satellite-guided strike. For most of 2024, cartel leaders still believed they were invisible. As long as they stayed deep inside the jungle and kept their local officials loyal, they thought they could outlast any government crackdown. But high above the tree line, a quiet shift was already underway. A growing fleet of tiny satellites, called CubeSats, started pulling the curtain back. These weren't ordinary satellites. They were based on NASA's ecostress and pre-fire missions, designed to study heat and climate. But now, they are being used to scan Mexico's densest forests every 96 minutes, using thermal cameras that detect infrared light in the 8 to 12 micron range. That's precise enough to pick up a heat signature about the size of a 2-car garage, even if it's hiding under 3 thick layers of tropical trees. If the same hot rectangle showed up night after night, a software system in Pasadena, California marked the area bright red and immediately alerted Joint Task Force teams. By December, those red alerts started clustering in one region, a remote part of the Sierra Madre that techs at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab started calling Fentanyl Valley. Satellites catch the big picture, but drones close in for the details. In February, the White House quietly signed a memo that cleared the use of MQ-9 Reaper drones for constant monitoring flights over Sinaloa. These drones flew high, over 25,000 feet up, quietly circling targets and sending live video back to Langley. There, artificial intelligence scanned the footage, picking out things like walking paths, tire tracks, or even when a guard stepped outside for a smoke break. Lower down, field teams launched palm-sized quadcopters that flew just above the treetops. These smaller drones were used to scan the temperature coming out of vent pipes and to count barrels of chemicals like acetic anhydride being moved into sheds. According to Intelligence Online, Palantir software linked the drone footage with the satellite alerts, and that combination cut down the time needed to build a target profile. What used to take 9 months could now be done in just 6 weeks. In the past, going radio silent helped cartels stay hidden. But now, silence stands out. Along the Arizona-Sonora border, the National Security Agency deployed a network called Volcano. These disguised towers look like regular cell towers, but when a cartel runner pushes their encrypted radio button, the towers immediately pick up the signal, calculate where it came from, and map out the route in seconds. In one case, an intercepted call revealed that a refrigerated truck was leaving Durango every third Thursday at 2 a.m., packed with barrels of propionyl chloride, a key chemical used in fentanyl production. The route was carefully planned to avoid every federal police checkpoint. But by late March, that truck vanished from the network. A new van route took its place, hugging tight canyon roads and staying almost completely silent. Even with the best tools, the chess match between authorities and traffickers never really stops. But all this advanced tech still can't erase what really holds the cartels together: loyalty. In rural towns across Sinaloa and Guerrero, cartel bosses continue to pay for school roofs, fund church events, and cover the cost of weddings. That kind of loyalty doesn't disappear when a drone flies overhead. If a foreman is arrested, his cousin usually takes over the next day, sometimes even more brutal than the one before. The maps and heat scans might show where the operations are, but to actually stop them, someone has to move in fast, before the target vanishes again. That moment came on January 20th, 2025. A presidential order, Executive Order 14157, gave the green light to use military force against drug cartels that posed what it called catastrophic narcotics threats. That marked a major shift in how the United States would deal with the crisis. Instead of relying only on subpoenas and court battles, military commanders could now plan direct strikes. Within days, lawyers from 3 federal agencies took the rules used in Afghanistan and quickly rewrote them into a legal framework for Mexico. It wasn't a perfect fit, but it was enough to get Joint Special Operations Command the authority they needed. Their focus soon narrowed in on one suspected superlab, located about 16 miles southeast of Badiraguato. For 9 straight nights, satellites picked up the same patch of trees glowing 50 degrees hotter than everything around it. Drone footage showed trucks hauling liquid ammonia up narrow dirt roads. Documents intercepted by Volcano showed massive purchases of citric acid and sodium borohydride, both commonly used to produce fentanyl. Analysts at the CIA named the site Hive Zero and estimated it was churning out over 2,000 pounds of fentanyl powder every single week. They recommended it be wiped off the map. The strike that followed took 98 days to plan. Military leaders picked 12 F-22 Raptor fighter jets for the job. These jets have a unique diamond shape and special radar-absorbing paint that makes them almost invisible to Mexico's older air defense systems. Each jet carried 2 GBU-39B small-diameter bombs, each weighing about 250 pounds. These bombs are guided by GPS and can hit a target from as far as 40 nautical miles away with pinpoint accuracy, close enough to destroy a bunker without damaging everything around it. On July 19th, at exactly 1:07 a.m. local time, the Raptors lifted out of a holding pattern over the Gulf of California. They dropped to 22,000 feet and released their bombs in 3 precise waves. The first wave hit the rooms where the chemical mixers were located, sending up a toxic cloud that smelled faintly sweet, typical of acetyl fumes. The second wave struck the solvent storage tanks, and satellites watching from space recorded temperatures at the blast site shooting up to about 500 degrees Fahrenheit. The third and final wave brought down the ventilation system and sealed off escape tunnels, burying whatever was left of the equipment and chemicals inside. From the first strike to the final shockwave, the entire mission lasted just 93 seconds. By the time radar systems in Mexico spotted the jets, the Raptors were already gone. 2 days later, a cartel contact gave DEA agents a thumb drive containing radio logs. Activity on the cartel's main radio channel had dropped by 70%. Word spread that middle managers were fleeing their safe houses in towns like El Dorado and Guamuchil. Some drivers even refused to move gasoline for the cartel. Local morgue records showed 883 murders across Sinaloa in just the first half of 2025. That's 3 times the body count from the same period the year before. It was clear that the cartel had begun tearing itself apart, with different factions accusing each other of being the leak. Culiacan alone had averaged just under 40 killings per month through mid-summer of 2024. But in September, the number jumped to 73. Then, in October, it exploded to 116 murders in a single month. The fallout didn't stop there. Chat rooms lit up with panic. In Zacatecas, drivers were burning financial records and ditching WhatsApp in favor of old-school code sheets printed on cigarette paper. One Reaper drone caught 2 guards in the act of burning cash at a remote stash house. Along the coast, cartel lookouts filmed small boats, called pangas, being tested without their radar-reflective covers. In Chiapas, military patrols noticed a sudden uptick in quadcopter drone flights from hidden pads. Some believe this could be an early sign that cartels might fight back with drone swarms of their own. Back in Washington, officials praised the mission as a clean hit, but not everyone felt safer. Some economists raised red flags, warning that even a 1-hour shutdown at the Nogales border crossing could cost American fruit and vegetable buyers about $500,000 in spoiled goods. What happens if the cartels fight back? Not with guns, but by hacking customs systems or blowing up fuel pipelines. Even inside the Pentagon, some officers wondered if a single precision strike, lasting less than 2 minutes, could really stop anything long-term, or if it would just push the labs deeper into the jungle and make the cooks harder to track. America's fentanyl wound. Fentanyl doesn't just kill quietly, it tears through entire cities. In Phoenix, the numbers speak for themselves. Back in 2017, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office handled just 37 fentanyl-related prosecutions. But by 2024, that number exploded to more than 7,800. That's roughly 3 new felony cases every hour of the workday. Local health officials say the drug now kills about 3 people every day in the county. The morgue has even started buying body bags by the pallet just to keep up. But Phoenix isn't alone. On the other side of the country, Philadelphia hospitals are facing something just as devastating, though slower and far more brutal. Doctors there are now dealing with the fallout from tranq dope, a street mix of fentanyl cut with xylazine, a powerful animal tranquilizer. Since 2020, at least 450 people in the city have lost an arm or a leg because of it. This wave of synthetic drugs isn't just dangerous, it's changing what drug addiction looks like and how quickly it destroys lives. Despite all this, the latest numbers from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show a sign of hope. Their July 2025 update puts total U.S. overdose deaths at around 87,000 for the 12 months ending in September 2024. That's a nearly 24% drop from the record high of 114,000 the year before. But that progress is not evenly spread. Some places have managed to cut fatalities in half. Others are still seeing the numbers rise. What's making the difference isn't always about money, it's about speed. Cities that move fast to get Narcan onto the streets, offer drug-checking services, and bring treatment directly to people are the ones pulling ahead. Dayton, Ohio, used to be known as the overdose capital of America. Now it's one of the best examples of how to turn things around. Montgomery County recorded 176 overdose deaths in 2024, a 39% drop from the year before, and nearly half the number from 2022. A lot of that progress comes from Project DAWN, which stands for Deaths Avoided with Naloxone. That program alone handed out close to 291,000 Narcan kits across Ohio last year. The plastic boxes holding those kits, called Nalox boxes, can now be found in fire stations, libraries, and even gas station restrooms. Each one has 2 4-milligram sprays, and anyone can grab them anonymously. Emergency medical logs show that the average time between someone collapsing and receiving Narcan is now under 3 minutes. That short window has saved hundreds of lives. Ohio also legalized fentanyl test strips in 2023, which made a big difference. Outreach teams can now give strips to users without worrying about getting charged with distributing drug paraphernalia. These days, users say they test nearly every bag before using. And if someone finds fentanyl in a batch, the news spreads fast, usually through group texts, stopping others from taking the same risk. San Francisco has taken a similar approach, just on a tighter grid. In 2023, the city recorded 810 overdose deaths. But by 2024, that number dropped to 633. a 22% decrease and the lowest total since monthly tracking began in 2020. Health officials say the turnaround came from a three-part strategy: flood the city with Narcan, send mobile vans into neighborhoods to write buprenorphine prescriptions on the spot, and make test strips available for free at concerts and syringe exchange sites. There's also a group of rolling response units, called dope carts, that drive through the Tenderloin and Soma from noon to midnight. They offer wound care, test strips, and quick links to treatment. The city also added 400 new residential treatment beds, which means that when someone says yes to help, they're placed within hours, not days. So why haven't cities like Phoenix and Philadelphia seen the same progress? In Arizona, fentanyl test strips didn't become fully legal until late 2024, and even now, many local governments still ban permanent syringe exchange programs. That forces outreach vans to move locations every few hours, making it hard for users to find them and even harder to build trust. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, the plan to open a supervised injection site has been stalled for 6 years due to legal fights. And it wasn't until last year that official medical guidelines for treating xylazine wounds were even published. Public health experts say that delay gave tranq dope a head start, and the damage was already done by the time the city responded. Looking at the places that have made real progress, 3 things stand out. First, Narcan needs to be everywhere, on buses, in stairwells, behind bar counters, wherever an overdose might happen. Second, drug checking has to be easy, legal, and fast. The cities that make test strips available and combine them with honest counseling see overdose calls drop quickly. Third, the response has to be personal and fast. Dayton sends a team to the survivor's door within 72 hours of an overdose. That team pairs a medic with someone who's been in recovery. 71% of those visits lead to treatment, compared to a national average closer to 25%. Still, even the strongest efforts are racing against time. CDC toxicologists are now finding even more dangerous synthetic drugs, like carfentanil and medetomidine, that can overpower a standard Narcan dose and slip past current test strips. If drug imports don't slow down, the gains some cities have made could vanish just as fast. Fentanyl in the FedEx era. Today, one of the deadliest ways fentanyl gets into American homes doesn't come through back alleys or secret tunnels. It arrives in the mail. Sometimes it's packed in a cardboard envelope, no different from one carrying phone accessories or socks. 19-year-old Paige Gibbons, a college student in Pittsford, New York, thought she was taking one Percocet, bought from a contact on Snapchat. But the pill was pure fentanyl. She died before paramedics could reach her dorm. Her story echoes dozens of others from Arizona to Indiana. Young people poisoned by pills sold through disappearing message apps and delivered by major shipping companies. Law enforcement now calls this the FedEx era of drug trafficking, where a fatal dose can be ordered faster than a pizza and with almost no oversight. It all starts online. Dealers set up throwaway profiles on apps like Snapchat, Instagram, and Telegram. They post photos of colorful M30 pills or fake Xanax bars and use emojis like the pill, the beaker, or the blue pea, symbols teenagers have come to recognize as drug ads. According to the DEA's 2024 National Drug Threat Assessment, about 62% of counterfeit prescription pills seized last year contained enough fentanyl to kill. Nearly half of all overdose cases involving minors started with a simple chat on social media. Even though companies like Snapchat say they're cracking down, a Bloomberg investigation showed over 1.4 million drug-related posts were removed in 2024, but many reappeared within hours under new accounts. Once a deal is made, money moves through platforms like Cash App, Zelle, or cryptocurrency. The product is then shipped through regular carriers. Between October 2023 and September 2024, U.S. Postal Inspection agents seized more than 80,000 packages that contained fentanyl or pill presses. Altogether, over 36,000 kilograms of narcotics were pulled from the mail stream, and private shipping companies aren't immune either. In March 2025, CBP reported that it had intercepted pill-making equipment and chemical precursors at the FedEx hub in Indianapolis. At JFK Airport in New York, agents began x-raying small, de minimis packages, those valued under $800 and usually exempt from tariffs, after finding padded mailers from Malaysia stuffed with fake Adderall laced with fentanyl. Dark web markets make things worse. In 2024, the FBI's Joint Criminal Opioid and Darknet Enforcement Team ran Operation Spector, a global crackdown that took down 288 sellers and seized around 850 kilograms of drugs. Among those was 64 kilograms of fentanyl powder, enough for over 32 million fatal doses. Investigators say many of the dealers were running both encrypted dark web storefronts and mainstream social media accounts at the same time. As one analyst put it, they advertise on TikTok but close the sale behind a digital speakeasy door. Social platforms claim they're improving their filters, but the dealers always find workarounds. Hashtags like FentLife or Perks30 get replaced with coded versions, or use combinations like the ski goggle emoji next to a maple leaf. A Wired report from late 2024 found more than 500 active fentanyl listings still live on Instagram, despite its official promise to delete all drug content within 24 hours. To fight back, the DEA launched a pilot tool called SENTRY, an automated system that flags suspicious social media activity in real time and sends alerts directly to the platforms. In its first 3 months, Sentry helped lead to 27 domestic arrests. Shippers are now stuck in a constant back-and-forth battle. FedEx and UPS have started using AI systems to detect abnormal weight in small boxes, which can signal hidden pill packs. But traffickers adapt fast, hiding single pills in greeting cards or hollowing out USB chargers. CBP officers say the flood of de minimis packages overwhelms their ability to screen effectively. To deal with this, CBP created parcel strike teams at JFK and LAX. In May alone, those teams found 8.7 pounds of fentanyl powder, roughly 4 million potentially lethal doses, disguised as green tea and sealed in vacuum bags. Often, the people behind these shipments are young Americans working from their bedrooms. In Evansville, Indiana, 20-year-old Jeremiah Leach used Snapchat to sell fake M30 pills he sourced from Arizona. He was tied to 3 overdoses, including the death of a 15-year-old. Leach is now serving a 20-year sentence, the first Snapchat-based fentanyl conviction in that federal district under the new penalty guidelines. Prosecutors say these cases are becoming more common. Most defendants are around 23 years old and use pill presses that cost less than $600 online. Parents and schools are scrambling to respond. States like Texas, California, and Ohio have released 30-second YouTube ads warning teens about fake pills. One campaign, called One Pill Kills, was produced by the Texas Health and Human Services Department. Still, a survey by the National Institute on Drug Abuse found that only 22% of high school seniors believe prescription pills are safer than illegal drugs, showing just how wide the information gap really is. Law enforcement leaders say cutting off the mail system may be one of the quickest ways to reduce deaths. A new data-sharing agreement between the Postal Service, FedEx, and DHL now lets carriers flag and block suspicious sender addresses within hours of a seizure. Officials credit the pilot program with helping reduce flagged pill shipments by 14% between January and June 2025. But the scale of the problem remains massive. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.